Welcome back to Story Writing. Now that you have cooked up a fantastic, entertaining beginning, it is time to look at writing your elaborative detail. This is step number 4 in the step-by-step guide to story writing. You will be using slides 7, 8, and 9.
Excellent. Okay, so let's take a moment just to review elaborative detail. An elaborative detail paragraph is a really important part of the narrative diamond. It's very important to remember that when writing an elaborative detail paragraph, the story stops. And this is probably the most important part about your elaborative detail, is that there is very little action, little to no action at all in this paragraph. You're taking a moment to pause the story and describe something that is really important.
So elaborative detail is all about describing a setting, a character, or an object. This allows your reader to clearly see a picture in their mind of what you are describing. You need to take a look at your entertaining beginning and decide what would be the best thing to describe for your story. So it might not be a character, it might be a setting. You might need to use one sentence in your elaborative detail to set yourself up. So if you want to describe a setting, you need to get to that setting. Or if you're describing a character, that character needs to be in front of you.
Perfect. And so for example, in the class story that my class wrote, in the entertaining beginning, we had a prince who was kidnapped by a sea monster, and then we have a character named Coral, who the king wanted to save the prince, and she was trying to figure out how to do it. And then in the very end of the entertaining beginning, she meets her friend Krabby, who, it's all set underwater, who is going to help her save the prince. Because Krabby was introduced right at the end of the entertaining beginning, it made sense for the elaborative detail for us to describe Krabby. So you need to look at how your entertaining beginning ended to start your elaborative detail. So has your main character just arrived at an important location, like Madame Cuban said? If so, then describe that important location. What does it look like? Can you hear anything? Can you feel something? Is your main character looking at another important character in the story? So like in my Krabby, you should describe the character. What are they wearing? How do they look? How can you describe this character? How are they feeling? Or for an object, is your main character in search of an item? Do they need something important to move the story forward? Do they need this object for the main event? You could describe this object. What is it? Who does it belong to? Why is it important? And what does it look like?
Excellent. So when you are describing one of these items, it is important to use word reference. So you don't want to always repeat the same word over and over again. So if you're writing about a journal, you don't want to always say the journal, the journal, the journal. Or if you're writing about a castle. So if you're writing about a castle, and you say the castle, the castle, the castle all the time, it's boring and your reader doesn't want to keep reading. So what you could say instead could be the stone fortress or the massive building. So using a word reference is an adjective and a noun grouped together. So you want to try and at least use 3 of those in your elaborative detail. Another great way to write a description of something is to use your 5 senses. So back in class, we took some time to look at this, and in your toolbox, you have a page to help you out. And so we've provided you with a toolbox. It's right next to the step-by-step guide to story writing in that ELA folder in your resources for grade 3. So you need to think of the senses that can realistically describe your setting, your character, or your object. Some of the senses might not work all the time, and that's okay. You don't need to use all of them, but it's a good idea to use some of them. So if you're having trouble of how to put them in, remember in your toolbox, there's this page here, and it gives you some sentence starters. So for example, if you wanted to, maybe you heard something, you could use standing quietly, I noticed the sound of blank, and you can finish that sentence. Or if you're smelling something, Breathing deeply, I noticed blank. So really take a look at this page. It will really, really help you when you're writing.
Excellent. And because the whole point of the elaborative detail is for your reader to be able to close their eyes and really picture that setting, or really picture the character, the detail, everything about them, the object, because that character or setting or object is really important to the next step of the story. Okay, so for this week, you are going to choose either the setting, the character, or the object. Only one out of those three, and you're going to write about it. It will follow directly after your entertaining beginning. So everyone has created a doc with story at the top, and you are going, where you have your elaborative or your entertaining beginning, now you are going to write your elaborative detail directly under that. Make a few spaces on the page so that we can see where your one paragraph starts and one paragraph ends, and start writing.
Your elaborative detail should be between 5 and 7 sentences, so just the same amount as your entertaining beginning. Each sentence is an important description, so every sentence counts. You should have used at least 3 word reference and at least 2 of the 5 senses to describe your setting, character, or object. You should be finished writing and correcting your elaborative detail by Wednesday, May 6th, so that your teacher can provide you with some feedback. Thursday, you will be doing a spelling activity, and then Friday, you can review your elaborative detail so that the following week, you can start your main event.
Okay, guys, have a fantastic time writing. We cannot wait to see these descriptions.
Have so much fun.